Good morning, friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if this is your first time here, then hi. My name is Carrington. Big, huge, special welcome to you. I hope that if you enjoy palette rankings, talking about palettes, hauls, whether it be makeup and non-makeup, reviewing new makeup, reviewing old makeup, shop my stashes, using up products in my stash, and we sprinkle in some true crime, then definitely go ahead, hit that subscribe button, click the little bell. As well, if this is your 10th time, 100th time, 50th time, second time here, and you still have not yet hit that subscribe button, absolutely do so. You keep coming back, so you clearly enjoy this dumpster fire, dumpster fire, dumpster fire of a channel. So if you are excited to see what 10 palettes I'm going to talk about that makes me the most excited for winter, or I think are the top 10 palettes to have for winter, then definitely keep on watching. All right, when I look at these palettes, it could be because it reminds me of holidays. It could be because the color story is definitely something that I think is very like winter-ish. So I have 10 palettes. I've gone through my whole entire collection, and these are the ones that I am most excited to personally pull out, and I have personally pulled out for the winter season. So let's go ahead and let's dive on into the very first one. The first one is going to be that from Sydney Grace. That's going to be the Enduring Love palette. I really do like this palette. This definitely gives you some really nice cool toned options. This is obviously made for like lighter skin tones. They do have a deeper option, so just be mindful of that. But I think some of the shimmers in here are really good as well. You do have kind of like those silvers in here that definitely are, you know, very reminiscent of like a cool toned. And for me, I really do like to pull out some cool tones during the winter months. As you can tell, I've got some cool tonedness going on my eyes right now. I did not use this palette. I did use a different palette. I will link everything I can down below. But I really like how you have like these greens. I think like having some nice cool toned greens are really nice. You have like this really beautiful blue, and you have some berry type tones. I think this palette definitely does have a lot. You know, they are more cool toned no matter which way you go, more cool toned berry, more cool toned greens. But I think that if you do want to have a splash of color, but you do want something a little bit more cool toned, sometimes I like to add a splash of color. As you can tell, all over my lids there's some splash of color. I think this would be definitely a great palette for you. I will link this down below if it's in stock. I mean, if it's not in stock, I'll leave it down below and you can check it out whenever it does come back in stock. I know this does restock. I don't think this is limited edition. But definitely this is like such a cute, cool tone palette with some nice cool toned pops of color for those of you in your life that really like some neutral but likes to add a little bit of pop and color here and there. Next up is from Give Me Glow. So this is going to be the Christmas Morning palette. Now it is winter time, and so a lot of times during the winter, it's especially December. The month of December is like jam-packed. December to the beginning of January, jam-packed with holidays, whether that be work holiday parties, whether that be like 500 family parties, whether that be things you do with your friends, whatever that may be. I really feel like Christmas is definitely a little prominent for a lot of people. Granted, I know that it's not the only holiday. I know that there's Hanukkah, there's Kwanzaa, things like that. But I do know that a lot of places do more Christmas-like things. Like for my job, we have a Christmas party. I have not heard of anybody doing like a Kwanzaa or Hanukkah party. If they do though, let me know if your job does, because that's really cool. So let me know that if that does happen, because that would be really cool. But I know Christmas is definitely a holiday that we celebrate. Nobody in my family is like Jewish or anything like that. So we do celebrate Christmas. So when I pull this open, it reminds me of winter. Winter is here. Christmas happens in winter. And I just want to say, like, just by looking at this color story, there's definitely some winter-esque types of things. Again, you've got like a cooler toned brown. You have like this like wet, like silver, which I think would be great for like, you know, in the winter time as well. You have like some, you know, a nice gold, and I feel like, you know, you have golds for like New Year's, or, you know, not just Christmas but New Year's as well. You have like this like duochrome, so you could definitely like amp up your look, have it be a little bit more smoky but still cool toned at the same time. So yes, although this is definitely a very much like a Christmas palette, definitely reminds me of Christmas, and Christmas is in winter, I definitely think you can get more uses than just Christmas looks out of this. So next up is going to be the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice. Now this is the original. They have come out with a million other palettes that are very similar to this, may actually even be exactly this color story. The reason why I bring this up in one of like my top 10 palettes for winter is because I bought this palette. This was one of my first like high-end palettes that I bought for the holiday season. And so for me, I feel like this has like a lot of nostalgia in it, where I created some like really beautiful looks for the holidays, for the winter time, using this palette. And I was so excited to have this palette. This is not like the first one that they came out with. They re-released and I bought this again. It smells like gingerbread. It smells like Christmas. I feel like you do have some really beautiful neutrals. You could do a little bit more warm tones. You have some like cranberry colors. You have some like very beautiful fall tone kind of like shimmers. You've got like some greens. You've got some golds. You've got some beautiful like purples, plums. I feel like this palette does have a lot to offer in terms of different color stories, especially for the winter time. But for me, I feel like maybe this is just a nostalgia, but I would say if you have this palette, this is a really good palette. Usually I don't say that a lot about Too Faced. Actually, probably none about Too Faced, really truthfully. But this stuff was so nostalgic. I've created so many beautiful winter looks. When I first started makeup and I bought this, this was definitely my go-to winter palette. And just being able to bring this out again and be able to use it for the winter time is so nostalgic, so meaningful to me, and definitely a palette where you can create some really beautiful wintertime looks. So next up is from Huda, and this is the Wild Jaguar. So again, I was kind of thinking about like, you do have like a lot of like party things, like you've got like New Year's, you've got like Christmas, you've got like Christmas parties. And this is definitely really deep and sultry, and you can create some really beautiful, cool toned, smoky eyes for those times when you are going out and having like a late night party or something like that. I feel like this is beautiful. I feel like this is really well coordinated. You could do an all matte look. You could do a shimmer heavy look. You could do like a matte and shimmer look. I feel like this has a lot of potential, has some really beautiful tones in here, some really beautiful like purple ass, kind of like what I have on my eyes now. This is not the palette that I have on my eyes. It's actually the Glamlite Michaela palette. But I feel like you could get like a really similar look with this palette, where the mattes are definitely more cool toned like I have on the eyes, and you have kind of more of like these light purpley shimmers, and you could get something very similar. You could amp it up and make this super, super smoky, especially for like that New Year's time. I think it's really, really beautiful. You could also amp it down and just have something really nice and light on the eyes for like the workday. This is such a good, I think, palette for like the winter time. So I personally really like more cool tone type palettes for the winter time. That's something that I really tend to gravitate more towards. It's definitely going to be something that's going to be a little bit more cool toned. And I feel like the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox really, really gives that to you. I'm gonna leave a picture of it up here because I can't find it in my collection. I know I have it in my collection. It's about a 35 pan palette, but these have some really beautiful cool tones. And when I am like, I want to play in a ton of cool tones, that palette really gives me some options. They have some beautiful shimmers, some beautiful mattes. You can create a wide array of some very like cool tone looks, from something very light and airy for the office to something a little bit more smoked out and intense. I feel like that's probably a good one and done palette. But you know, if you would like to add a little bit more color to your, you know, cool toned look, or you are wanting something a little bit maybe more berry-ish, I feel like the Natasha Denona Retro palette is a really good option. As you can tell, this is definitely like a very cranberry color, and I really do find that this is definitely something really good for the winter. This is definitely a really winter-esque kind of a palette. It's a little bit, again, you've got those neutrals that you do have is a little bit more cool toned, but I feel like it offers a lot with the cranberries. And you know, when I think of winter, I don't know why, but I think of like the little like is it like mistletoes or wreaths or whatever, that have the cranberries in it. And granted, that might be around like Christmas time, but I feel like I think about that for like all winter. And so this really does provide you with those beautiful cranberry tones, and you can create some really beautiful looks with this for the winter time. Next up is a really good drugstore option. This is the NYX Ultimate Utopia palette. This has such a wide variety. This has like, I want to say like 35 shades. Let me see if I can, here we go. Open it, but look at how beautiful these are. You have some cool toned mattes, you have some warm toned, you kind of have a little bit of some like berry shades. You have where you can definitely make it more smoky. You have where you could make it, you know, there's some greens in here, some really beautiful greens for the winter time. You've got like this beautiful purple like right down here in the corner, which could really help you like amp up like a New Year's type of look. I mean, there's just so much you could do with this palette. You can get it at the drugstore. Again, it's like, I think like that's like 30, maybe it's $35 for this palette. You have 40 shadows, and these are really good at swatching. They are really beautiful. You could go a ton of different ways, and I feel like no matter what way you're going with this palette, it's going to be really, really beautiful for the winter time. I think this is such a great drugstore option if you are looking for something new for the winter that maybe you don't have a lot of winter palettes. You don't really have a ton to spend, and you're like, well, $35, that's a lot. You also get 40 shades. Like some palettes here, you get like 15 shades and you're spending like $65. So you see, like these are less than $1 per shade. I feel like this is totally fair, and this is full of so many wonderful and beautiful winter looks. Next up is going to be from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is in collaboration with Jackie ANIA. This is such a beautiful palette, especially for the winter time. Again, you have like those pinks and cranberries, and you have like some really like deep purples, which I know some of you like, I don't know, when I think of winter, I think of like deep purple looks, whereas during like the summer or anything else, I'm thinking more of like lilacs, like pastels. But for like winters, I'm definitely thinking of more of like in your face dark purples. You have some really beautiful neutrals, you have some really beautiful golds, you have some champagnes. Like there's so many different options for this, and when I open this up, it makes me so excited for winter because of the looks that I can create. I feel like, you know, this, I don't think they sell this anymore. I'll try to find it, and if I can, I'll link it down below. But I think that they did discontinue this. They may have brought it back last year, maybe, for like a repurchase. This is so good. I love like the reds and the greens and the champagnes and the purples. Like everything about this just kind of does remind me of like a really beautiful wintertime colorful palette. Two more palettes to talk about. The next one I'm going to talk about is from Scott Barnes. This is the Glamazon palette. Again, definitely a lot more cool toned. You have some really beautiful like cool toned blues, some really beautiful cool toned purples. You've got like these greens that kind of remind me of like pine trees or like Christmas trees. But I feel like during the winter, most of the trees lose their leaves. They're dead. The pine trees are still there, and so that's there. I feel like there's not really a lot of palettes that I've showed you that have some really beautiful like cool toned blues, but this one really does, and they're really beautiful. This one have, you know, some of those like more like intense kind of like purples, whereas, you know, that I did mention, I do kind of think of winter, but I think it also offers some really beautiful cool toned purples as well. And I think that is so beautiful for the winter time. Again, I'm really into cool tones, and so you're going to see a lot of like cool tones in this, but I think it's like the variety that each of the palettes gives you in terms of like those cool tones. And this is just definitely another one that is so great, so beautiful. I mean, like here are these beautiful shimmers. I think that they, you know, are absolutely stunning, beautiful, cool toned. So definitely I think the Glamazon is a great option if you're looking for a winter palette and have always wanted to try something from Scott Barnes. The last palette, number 10, is kind of a sad one because they did close their door, but I think it's a beautiful winter palette, and it's going to be the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1. There was never a Volume 2, but again, I love this palette. This is so good for the winter time. You have those berry tones, you have some cool tones, you can amp it up with some black glitters if you are going, you know, someplace. So here's her glitters. Her glitter formula is actually like a really good glitter formula, I'm not gonna lie. As you can tell, I swiped it. Not a lot of it's left on the finger. There's some where like it's stuck there for days, weeks, months probably. But really good formula. You have the ability, one thing I really like about this palette that I feel like a lot of the other palettes didn't have is the ability to just like amp up the look. So, you know, you could, you know, go to work. Let's say you're going to work and you put like these 2 shades on your eyes. Well, let's say now you're needing to go to an after party or something a little bit more sultry. You're going out to eat something. You can amp it up with the black, and then you can put and dab some on the lid. Or let's say you really want a very nice, beautiful, like berry type look. You have tons of options where you can just use this whole row full of berries. So you could definitely, you know, start out with this, making it a transition shade, going in with a more densely smaller pack brush, going in like, you know, your crease and outer corner, putting like the shimmer on the lid, and then topping it with some glitter. There's so many different things you can do, and I feel like this is so great for the winter, especially like a lot of people are traveling during the winter, and I feel like this is a great take along palette because you can do so much with it. All right, and that is all 10 of the palettes that I think would be perfect for winter. Whether or not they're ones you already have in your collection that maybe you haven't thought about, whether they might be ones that you could go and pick up now that you are maybe wanting to add to your collection. Tons of different options. Let me know what you guys think down below. What's a palette that you have in your collection, or maybe you don't have in your collection, but you look at it and you're like, wow, that really reminds me of winter, and I could really make some beautiful winter palettes, or winter looks. Let me know all that down below. I was going to maybe put like the Michaela Glam Light, but I really feel like that palette is more like a spring summer kind of a palette, potentially a little bit of fall as well, more so than I would say winter. But overall, let me know what you guys think. I am so in love with the palettes that I picked out. These definitely remind me of winter. I'm not a winter person. I never get excited for winter, but these make me a little bit excited for winter, so I can definitely grab them out, play with them, and make some extraordinary looks. So let me know some of your guys' favorite palettes down below. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give this video a thumbs up. If you enjoyed this, want to see more content like this, then make sure you have hit that subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified of all my future uploads, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!